Well, guys, we're going to keep right on moving here, and I'm really excited about having the opportunity to have this next discussion, talking about education, workforce, skills training, and how the business community can be a part of that. And with us this morning, we have a wonderful panel, Dr. Al Rankins, who is the Commissioner of the Institutions of Higher Learning here in the state of Mississippi, Dr. Mary Graham, the President of Gulf Coast Community College, and then Ryan Miller, our Executive Director of the Accelerate Mississippi, which is our Office of Workforce Development that the Governor and I were just discussing. We really appreciate all of you joining us here this morning at Capitol Day, and feel like that this is really a great opportunity for us to think about how we can work together, if you will. And I want to just start by kind of going around the table and getting your thoughts on kind of why the partnership between the education and workforce community is so important. And Al, I'll start with you. And what can business leaders do to kind of make sure that we're ensuring that our students at our universities across the state are really getting the fundamentals necessary to succeed in today's workforce?
Thank you. Well, I think first, we need to continue to have dialogue with our university leaders and academic departments that house the majors, the student majors that you as business leaders are seeking to hire, and to continue to engage in strategic partnerships with our universities. There are several examples of symbiotic relationships between our universities and the private sector. Some great examples include the Center for Advanced Vehicular Systems at Mississippi State, and some of the great research they're doing and applying that research to address real-time issues like designing and refining production lines and workstations at the Nissan plant and other automotive companies. The relationship with Mississippi Valley State University, I see President Briggs in the audience now, that they have with FedEx Logistics, where students at Valley are manning a logistics site on their campus and tracking packages from their point of origin to their destination point, giving those students valued training, work experience, and financial assistance, while FedEx is creating a pipeline of potential full-time employees that graduate from Mississippi Valley State University fully trained and ready to work on day one. Or the many examples of small business incubator units on our university campuses that support entrepreneurs and small business development. These great relationships support more meaningful engagement between the private sector and our universities, listening to each other's needs, pivoting and making adjustments, and fostering success for our students when they enter the workforce.
You know, and I think those adjustments are a big part of that. And Mary, the community colleges deal with this on a lot of instances, particularly we're not only talking about educational advancement toward degrees, but also the industry certifications, the specific training that's needed. So how can businesses make sure they're part of that process as we go through this?
You know, Scott, I would almost reframe that question, because I feel like it's incumbent upon higher education to ensure that business and industry is a part of the conversation. And of course, on the business industry side, we want you to engage with us at the community college level so we can provide the services and the training that you deem necessary and appropriate. If there are particular certifications, certificates, different training programs that you need for your business and industry, we need to make sure that we're providing that type of training. And we can only do that if we hear from you and we collaborate with you. We hosted a workforce summit over a month ago on one of our campuses. We had over 70 business and industries attend with over 250 business leaders. It was a workforce solutions-driven conversation with business and industry, who shared with us what the competencies are that they need. And then we, in turn, in an attempt to be responsive and relevant, go in and really revamp some of our curriculums to make sure we're meeting those needs. Because if we're teaching from a 40 or 50-year-old curriculum or training from a dated curriculum, then we're not providing the resources and the services that we're tasked with providing. We're here to train the next generation of the workforce, and so we're trying to do that every day. So we ask business and industry, engage with us. We have 15 amazing community colleges willing and ready to provide those services, so work with us.
You know, and I think the point is perfect. Working together is what it all comes down to. And Ryan, you're a little over a year and a half into your job. As I mentioned with the governor, I view the department as still in its infancy. But part of what we got to do is have willing partners within the business community to help develop that strategic pathway and accelerate. So how can that happen?
Well, I think, you know, if you're going to hear a common theme up here on the stage today, it's going to be consistency in that collaboration. Consistency. I think you can point to any time throughout the history of you know, I'd say the last 10 years of some of the workforce issues that we're facing right now, where there have been great ideas, there have been some great programs. We just as a state have never, I think in my opinion, haven't done it as consistently as we could. And so that collaboration has to be consistent, that communication. I know Dr. Rankins has mentioned that too. The consistency of that communication has to be there. Part of the reason why I think we exist was to try to help coalesce a lot of that collaboration. That's why we have the ecosystem model that we do and trying to build that out so that our partners have access certainly to us, but really more importantly, and this is going to sound selfish, that I have access to you. I was fortunate yesterday to get to talk to the MEC board. I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And along the way, I had some very, I think, good questions and at some point, tough questions for me to consider. Mr. Lampton had questions, Mr. Harrison had some great points. I know Mr. Taylor brought up some interesting points that I have to consider. That's the input that we need because you all are the experts. We need to be that teammate that can adjust and use the resources that we've been given authority over to make sure that we're making strategy that works for the very specific needs that you have in the business community. The only way that happens is with consistent collaboration. And as our ecosystem model continues to grow, and I believe build trust amongst businesses and our teammates, I think you're going to see that consistency become more of a reality.
And consistency has been the success of what's been happening, particularly I think at Gulf Coast, Mary, with some of the things y'all are doing in terms of developing programs, whether it's shipbuilding, nursing, or now, as the governor mentioned, diesel mechanics. You're playing a vital role in providing qualified employees. What makes that so successful, and how do businesses participate in that?
Well, I think the main thing you do is that there's not a one-size-fits-all, and so you have to work with the individual business or industry to customize. I mean, we have a menu of opportunities for training, but we have to make sure it meets the needs of that individual industry. And of course, you have to have the right people having the conversation with business and industry. We call it business speak. We're educators, so we need to make sure we speak the same language as business and industry, and we truly hear what they're saying and understand what they need. And then we take that information and we actually do something with it. We're responsive. And we give them the training program that they need. And we at Gulf Coast, and I know the other community colleges do this as well, we evaluate, we do a pulse check, if you will, on all of our career and technical programs and our workforce programs to make sure, again, that they're still relevant, that we're getting the outcomes that we anticipated when we started the programs, to make sure that we're doing the job we need to do for business and industry. And then last, certainly but not least, is to make sure that we continue to walk with business and industry, because after, say, 6 months or a year, we want to make sure that we're still there as a partner, still making sure those outcomes are good. We revamp as we need to. Again, I use the term relevant. We had our spring meeting yesterday. All of our faculty were back, and our whole topic was being responsive and relevant. You know, you think about Kodak. What happened to Kodak? Well, your cell phone sitting in front of you. Think about taxis, Uber. Think about Blockbuster. So, Netflix. So if you think about, we don't want to be in a situation ever at the community college level or at any level in Mississippi where we become irrelevant to people. So we need to make sure we stay current, We continue to reevaluate, we follow up, we work with business and industry. If they had a good or bad experience, we need to know it. Don't just walk away from us. Let us fix the problem. We're workforce solutions mindset. So we want to be that training arm for business and industry. We're tasked with doing that. And when I say training, it could be welding, it could be nursing, but it's also education. Your first 2 years on the academic track and move on into the university. So we have a lot of opportunities right at your back door in the community college system.
And you mentioned the actual system of the 15 community colleges across the state. So these are similar partnerships that businesses are open to building with those as well, correct?
Absolutely. Some of the strongest workforce training throughout, and the way the Mississippi system is set up, there are 15 community colleges. We try to mirror the needs of business and industry in our districts or in our area. That doesn't mean that we don't help each other if there's a need, but if we're heavy energy, shipbuilding, healthcare, then we're focused on that in our district. And then other districts have other needs in manufacturing and, you fill in the blank. So we're all tasked with making sure that we respond to our local needs and then work with our sister institutions to provide statewide training.
And that's so important. And you talked about the moving on to the next level of education. And Al, I kind of want to talk about that because, part of what the community college system is designed to do is move them into the next level, the next step of their education. And we've seen that on the academic side, but we're also starting to see that a little more from a career technical standpoint, particularly with the Allied Science Bachelor program that's been created that allows students that are working professionals to transfer hours that may have been in an applied science degree that was more of a career technical. How has that been received in terms of helping people get that next level, and what's happening from that perspective at our universities across the state?
Well, I'll tell you, Scott, this has been a big deal for our state. For many years, students in the academic track at our community colleges here in the state could transfer those hours to our 8 universities. We've had a long-standing great partnership with our community colleges, and we're really a leader here in the state when it comes to the seamless articulation of courses from our public community colleges to our public universities. However, about half of the students in our community college system are in our career technical track. That's a lot of students, and previously they could not transfer those career technical hours into our academic programs at our universities. We heard from students, we heard from our partners within the community college system, and we heard from you. And our board decided to address this issue. So in 2019, our board decided to approve an applied baccalaureate degree to be offered at all 8 of our universities. Creating a pathway was important to meet the need of working professionals who may have had the Associate of Applied Science degree from a Mississippi community college, but for career advancement reasons, for additional training needs, or just if it was a personal goal, they needed that BS level degree, and our board addressed that issue in partnering with our community college system. And I think so far it's been a great program for our state and has filled a hole where we had a tremendous need.
Are there opportunities for businesses to take part in helping make these programs successful, making sure the type of training and education and classes are taught? How can they get involved? How can they be part of that process?
I think our business leaders can continue to engage and let us know where the gaps are, where we need to make adjustments to strengthen our workforce, to make sure that we have a workforce that's ready for the jobs of today and for the jobs of the future.
Ryan, real quick, I want to talk a little bit about what Accelerate is doing in terms of developing kind of our ecosystems across the state that are focused on certain parts of the state and what those needs are. First, how's that process going? And then secondly, how do businesses connect with these ecosystems to kind of create that collaboration necessary for us to have a successful program?
So first of all, the question of how it's going, excuse me, how it's going, it's still going. It's ongoing. I think the development of the ecosystem is going to be a perpetual thing because I think, as Dr. Graham has said, and Dr. Rankins, this is an ongoing learning process. As industry changes, we too have to be nimble and versatile to change with it. You know, the ecosystems, for those of you that aren't aware, that they're designed truly to be able to address the ubiquitous problems that face the state, those common denominators that all industry seems to face around the state, but allow us also to pay attention to those specific needs of each micro region of the state of Mississippi. We have 8 ecosystems as we see it, and now thankfully have 10 ecosystem coordinators, teammates of mine, that now live in those communities and can be that first point of contact to industry, to educational partners. And I'm going to tell you that Dr. Graham is one of the best at what they do, what she does on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, at having her ear to the rail of what the industry needs are. And it's been a blessing for us to learn from their abilities and certainly what they've done over the years on the Gulf Coast. But it's an ongoing process of developing trust and developing those lines of communication. The governor said, you know, talking about hitting home runs or base hits, I mentioned to somebody out here, some days I feel like I'm hit by the pitch, but I still get on base. We are going very slowly, and we're trying to do this one step at a time, developing trust with the businesses in those communities, with our new coordinators, developing those lines of communication to our academic partners. One example, a success story that I would point to, just within the last 48 hours, you've seen Pearl River Community College. Rebecca Brown and the workforce office down in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, in their Hattiesburg campus, a workforce enhancement training fund that we, along with the community college board, were able to award to Pearl River Community College, allowed incumbent workers in that area, nearly 300, to have new skills developed through increased manufacturing courses through the community college. Those are people working at companies like Kohler and others in that area. That would not have happened if we did not have a good relationship with the likes of Rebecca Brown of Pearl River. It would not have happened if we didn't have Todd Jackson and Chad Newell from ADP at the table. It would not have happened were we not to have Southern Miss at the table saying, in our ecosystem, in this region, here are the specific needs that we see, or specific challenges that we're facing. Here are the needs that we have, and here's some of our ideas of how we could solve that. Now accelerate, you as the state entity, can you help us, resource us, to give us what we need to meet those challenges? So the ecosystems continue to develop. They will always be developing because that will always need to be nimble and change with the growing needs of industry. But I think it's going well. We have a lot more work to do, though. And hopefully we'll get more base hits than getting hit by pitches, but we'll see.
Well, it's amazing the work that's taken place in a very short period of time. And again, I think that, I look across the room, I know a lot of people have been involved in that process, and we really feel like we're headed in the right direction and want to be there. I've got one final question I want to ask each of you, and it's going to say, it's real simple. If there was, you look across the room, I'm excited to see everybody back together again. I'm also excited to see kind of a standing room only crowd here at our morning session. It's been a rough couple of years getting people together, and we're starting to get back to normal. But the one thing that we want to do is help. And if there was one thing that you could ask business leaders that are in this room today to do for you, to help you be successful in preparing our workforce and improving education, what would that be? And now I'll start with you.
Well, identifying problems is not a failure. It's not an indictment on the current work. It's a part of continuous improvement. And I think we just need to continue to talk and have real conversations about identifying barriers, tearing those barriers down, and putting our best foot forward in helping to move our great state forward. So let's just continue to talk and have dialogue.
Mary?
I can't just give you one answer there. First and foremost, engage and partner with your local community college. So often we have a preconceived notion of what's going on in your local community college. But if you take an opportunity to actually visit a campus and walk through their career and technical programs, their workforce training programs, you'll be amazed at the resources and amazed at the level of expertise that's available for each and every one of our business and industries. And again, we can customize that as we need to. I have to tell you folks, there's not a training deficit. We have lots of training opportunities. There's really no need for any industry to stand up their own individualized training without the support of the community colleges, because we have the connection for all of the different resources that are coming through the state. We speak business. We can help you line up all those resources to make sure you get the training experience you need. We want to walk with you in this endeavor. We want to collaborate with you because, again, it's our responsibility to do that, but we need you to engage with us and work with us so we can provide the best product so that you can get the trained workers that you need. We don't have a training offering opportunity. We have a people don't want to work issue. And so that's pretty simplistic, but so rather than start your own training, if you will work with us, we'll help do the training, and then you can incentivize people to participate in the training. That's what we need. Help us market the training, help encourage people to be a part of that training. We can do it on your site, or we could do it at the community college. So I'm a little biased. Jay Allen, who's here, he and I serve on the National Community College Board, and Jay would agree we have the best community college system in the United States. So let us help you.
Ryan, bring us home.
Well, I would say just in closing, the engagement piece that they've both talked about is certainly that I'll address as well. I will say not only stay engaged with your community colleges, with your four-year institutions. I failed to answer the last question that you asked me a few moments ago. Please go to our website, acceleratems.org, and you will see the ecosystem coordinator that is keyed to your individual ecosystem. That's an individual phone number, email address, a face, a name. That will be the person in your ecosystem that we want to be your teammate, hands, feet, eyes, a servant-hearted leader that's there to help make some of these connections. I would say stay engaged with groups like MEC, stay engaged with groups like MMA. We get a lot of communication between Scott and John about some of their constituencies and some of the overarching needs that the state is facing. Our ecosystem coordinators can help with the more specific needs. But then I would say, lastly, be specific. If you as a company have a need for workforce, try to drill that down to the basic, most specific needs that you have, because the more specific we can get, the faster I think groups like Mary's unbelievable team on the coast, or Rebecca Brown at Pearl River can respond. So the more specificity to the needs, the faster that we can respond as a partnership.
Well, I want to again thank each of y'all for being with us today. Having your insight is so important. I think that we are really making great strides. I think continuing to work together, the collaboration, which is what the focus of today's meeting is all about, is so vital for that. And I appreciate each of you taking time to be with us this morning, and we look forward to continuing to work with you as we go on the road. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you very much.